Hey, everybody, it's Kevin here with BSD, and this is Aging Ash and Sticky Balls. I am the reason for the delay. We were supposed to be live at 6. I apologize 1,000 times, but I was the reason we were late. We're happy to be joined by the boys, both Matt and Joey, and joining us with, ironically, some breaking news is Max Sorello of the Eagle Tribune. Mac, tell us about how you learned about Sale going in Game 1 and what's the thoughts behind that.
I mean, Alex Cora just kind of gave us all the news. Chris Sale's going to start Game 1. Nathan Eovaldi will get the ball in Game 2. And I mean, that's kind of a surprise, right? Like Chris Sale was pretty bad last time out against Tampa and really hasn't been very good much at all recently. But, they feel confident in him. He's done a couple of workouts and bullpens and kind of things like that. All of the reports out of that have been good. He's there. I mean, it's Chris Sale. Like you're talking about one of the best pitchers in baseball. So, if there's a guy you want to give the benefit of the doubt, you think it would be him, right? It's surprising, but I guess it's one of those things where we'll just have to see how it goes. Eduardo Rodriguez was terrible in Game 1. They gave him another chance, and he was great. Maybe Chris Sale found whatever it was that was not working for him, and maybe it'll be better. Who knows? Or maybe he'll stink, and we'll be killing Cora for this, on Sunday or whatever.
How much of this is them hoping he's going to be well and pitch well, and how much of this is a belief that he's back to being Chris Sale? Because I don't see Chris Sale take the mound more than 50% of the time, the one that they traded for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it could be both. I mean, are they not going to pitch Chris Sale in the series? Like that's the other question. Because if not, if you're not going to pitch him at all, then you're not going to pitch him at all. But if he's going to start at some point, then I mean, maybe I don't know what's the difference really. Like, I mean, Eovaldi pitching Game 1 would be the sensible decision, but. I mean, I don't know. Like, would it really be that much different if Sale pitches Game 2 versus Game 3? Like, if he's there, if they're gonna go with him, then I guess it's just a matter of whether or not you trust him at all. So they trust him, and this will be regular rest for him too. I believe either him or Eovaldi, it would have been either pretty close to their normal rest. And remember, he hasn't pitched a lot. Like, he didn't throw that many pitches in any of his recent starts. So he's certainly as fresh as he's going to be. So, maybe they just believe keeping him on a routine is more important than keeping Eovaldi on a routine because it seems like he's good no matter how much rest he's on.
Guys, before we dip too quick into that series against the Astros, let's take a look back on this past series against the Rays. Funny thing was, I was on the road for the last 2 weeks, and of course, I had a hard time. I was in the sticks in Western New York. I had a hard time getting the game. But I told everybody I knew they were going to get their doors blown off. The Red Sox. And after Game 1, it looked that way. That series was a blast. That was so much fun. I mean, even though you knew when they took a lead, either team took a lead, the other team was going to beat up the other team's bullpen at some point. But it was exciting baseball. It was so much fun. It was good to see base running that I see at T-ball level sometimes. Why don't we start with you, Matt? What were your thoughts on that series? Because you and Joey had this bro fest I had to clean myself from after they clinched. So let's start with you, Matt. You were a true believer all the way. What did you think about that Rays series?
Yeah, I at the start of the series I predicted Sox in 4. Obviously, had games 1 and 2 flipped, but I said if the Sox would win the series, it's because they wouldn't beat themselves. And sure enough, games 2 through 4, they didn't beat themselves. I mean, besides the grand slam against Sale. But Game 1, you look at that when you're allowing Rosarina to steal home. It was just like, man, all of my fears were coming to life watching that game. It just looked like we had no fight, just like we didn't deserve to be there. And then sure enough, I was working. Game 2, I was working, and then game 2, I got the notification that the Grand Slam happened. I was hanging my head, said, I guess this is just a series. I guess this is how it goes out. Maybe I'm just too optimistic of a fan at times. And sure enough, they just started to slowly come back, and then they really took off. And then game 3 was one of the most exciting games I've watched in a long time. I liked it more than that Dodgers 18 innings game. It was slightly shorter. The runs were more, so it made it a little bit better. But overall, the series was just, like you said, it was a blast. Like 2 walk-offs, one of which being a sac fly, I don't count as much, but it's still a walk-off by Kike, who was on fire the entire series. We're getting production out of places we needed. Devers is hurt, but still hitting homers, and it's just everything is looking great. JD's hurt, still goes deep, all these things. Bullpen pitched well for the most part, besides blowing the lead in game 4. But overall, I feel very confident. I feel confident in the team. Who knows what's coming forward? But with that Rays series, it was awesome. It was way better than I could have projected, even though I did have them winning in 4. And lastly, I do owe Alex Cora an apology because he is a good manager. He's a great playoff manager. And my doubt of him in the regular season, I'm glad to be wrong, but he deserves that to be recognized. He is a good manager.
All right, Joey, your time for the bro hug. Get it over with early.
I've told Matt if they made it to the ALCS, there would be an apology. But my apology goes to Alex Cora and this roster of players because Chaim Bloom still didn't do anything that he needed to back in August. I am apologizing for not believing that that team was already where they were, that Alex Cora wasn't going to manage them, that they needed help. The biggest thing I said in July at the trade deadline was they were coming back down to earth, other teams were coming up, and other teams were adding. And I didn't think that they were going to be able to keep up with all these other teams. But when it counted, when I hated that the Orioles in National Series at the end of the year had to matter, but they did. And when it mattered, they showed up. The Yankees game, you had to play in it, but you got home field, you showed up. And like Matt said, I thought the Red Sox, if they were going to win this series, I didn't think it could go 5. And I really wanted them, like Matt said, we had it flipped. We wanted them to win game 1 because I wanted them to come out and punch Tampa in the face and be like, we can win this. And Tampa did the complete opposite thing. And they punched them in their face and they stole home and they shut you out. And everything was bad. And I tweeted, at least we had Tuesday. Tuesday was fun because there's no way Tampa is now this. But then they sat back and they started eating some popcorn. And I was like, all right, game 2, we're going to come out. We're going to score right away in game 2. Schwarber gets on, Kike doubles. And then they light up Sale for 5. And I thought it was going downhill. But then the remaining almost 30 innings of baseball were some of the fun, or probably with that extra innings was 30 innings of baseball, was some of the funnest I've had watching. Like Matt said, I don't know what it is about this team. I don't know if it's recency bias, but compared to 18, it was like 18, you had the greatest team ever made for Red Sox history. You had the 100+ win season, and it was like they need to win this. You had the MVP. This team is just fun to watch, and when they're clicking, and I really thought Renfroe and Arroyo were going to have these big coming out parties against their former team. They were going to be like the prime they were this year. They were 2 of your worst, and you have, like Matt said, you have JD on one ankle. You have Rafi who's dealing with like a forearm thing, and half his at-bats look atrocious, and the other half-bats, he's just hitting nukes. Kike Hernandez turns into a god and was unbelievable and the hottest guy. His outs were loud. Everything was phenomenal. But the pitching, besides Erod starting game 1, Sale starting game 2, was really dominant. They did. You were facing a great team. You were facing the AL champs last year, the AL East champs this year, the best record in the AL this year, and so they were going to come back. No lead seemed safe. That's what you saw that happen with them both getting comebacks in the 8th in games 3 and 4. But the Red Sox stuck with it. Garrett Whitlock, Nick Pivetta are just. They got some big balls on them. They don't care who's up there. They're going to get out. And Whitlock, I said it months ago, I was afraid that the spotlight could scare him. He's a rookie. He had such a good year, but when he came in with a Rosarena on second, no outs, and got out of it, it showed he's there for the bright lights. And this team, they're playing with the underdog mentality. They have nothing to lose, and I think Houston will be a harder opponent than Tampa. I don't think Houston will look past the Red Sox, kind of like I think Tampa did a little bit. But I have a lot of hope with this team going forward. And I do have to at least give a hat tip to Matt and Heim Bloom and all the Heim stands, because he didn't sell the farm. He didn't do anything outrageous, and he did get to the ALCS. So at the end of the day, he got to where I expected them to be, where they were on July 31st.
Mac, you were a big you were behind this team early as far as covering spring training, and you were optimistic. You thought they were better than many people did coming in. I think the expectations were, if they were a 500 ball club within a game or two either way, it would have been a success. What have you seen since spring training, the win over the Rays in the ALDS, and the chances that they have right now going to the ALCS? Take me through your thoughts during the year, and do you believe more in this team now, or is everything still the same, or do you think there's still, pieces away?
Yeah, well, let's start. Well, first of all, remember, I was a midseason call-up, so my preseason impression of the team was more or less based on that of a fan's knowledge. I wasn't covering spring training with like a fine-tooth comb or anything. And yeah, I think my thought at the time, and I believe this pretty much right up until pretty late in the season, was that this was a good team, maybe not a great team. I thought if you asked me in the spring training, I probably would have said, yeah, I bet this team is probably like an 86 or 87 win team. And it turned out they were quite a bit better than that. And, I think, this team has consistently proven a lot of people wrong. They've been consistently proven a lot of people, they're better than everyone thought they were, even after they went through their struggles. September was a really impressive performance, I think, to go through the COVID outbreak, to kind of keep the ship afloat, and then ultimately to really grind out those last week and a half. You can be unhappy with the way they played, but at the end of the day, they got it done. And, sweeping the Nationals, the Nationals may not be a good team, but that was still a competitive team, and they brought it. Any team that has Juan Soto, I mean, really, beating them was, in the fashion they did, was important and impressive. I think, just to go back to something Joey said, I'll give you this much. Nathan Eovaldi is on the record as saying he was and the team were frustrated they didn't do more. So that whole line of thought and that narrative is legit. But the crazy thing is, when we talk about the trade deadline, what exactly are we defining as the success? Are we trying to find the players who do the most or the best outcome? Because that's not necessarily always one and the same. The Oakland Athletics had the best trade deadline. The players they brought in were awesome. They played great. They had 4 guys who came in and kicked everyone's butt, and the team consistently was garbage that whole time. Because it's baseball. You never know. They did exactly the right thing, and the team stunk anyway. The Red Sox brought in Kyle Schwarber, who's been awesome. I mean, without him, they're not in this place right now. Hansel Robles and Austin Davis, maybe not the relievers that the Red Sox fans would have wanted, but Davis has been really good in his specific role, and Robles has been interesting. I trust him in the big spot, even after he went the whole month of September without allowing a run. But he gives you something different. I mean, he's super, super, high velocity and really good stuff up, back end of the bullpen. They didn't really have very many guys like him. And I don't really know what to make of him personality wise. He's definitely a different dude. That's for sure. And then I guess just kind of long story short, I feel like this team certainly has what it takes to make a deep run now. What they did against Tampa was impressive. Houston is really good in a lot of the same ways that the Red Sox are good, which makes this a fascinating series. They are very playoff tested. Their offense is crazy. Their pitching is good, even if Lance McCullers can't go, which is going to be a big thing to watch tomorrow. So what the heck? Maybe, Alex Cora at this point, you can't deny the guy knows how to manage in the playoffs. So yeah, let's see what they got. It's worth, you can't count them out now. Certainly not after everything they've done.
Guys, your thoughts? Come on, Joey. Come on, somebody. Let's go.
Matt, you going?
Yeah, I'll go. Looking forward to the Astro series. like Max said, I think we match up. Not that we match up well, but we're very similar teams. I felt confident going into this Rays series. I'm kind of standoffish when it comes to the Astros. I think if they'll find some way to cheat us, I think they will find some way to cheat them. Everybody cheats, but it's interesting. They've been accused already by the White Sox for possibly signaling. I think it was Tepera, their seventh inning guy, called them out for it. But Houston's a good team. I remember Houston in the ALDS back in 2017. They were just strong. They did walk over us. Well, they walked over us games 1 and 2. Game 3 we came back, and then game 4 we blew. But they were a good team. And in 2018, I went into that series thinking the Astros were the better team, even though we had won 108 games. And it's just because it's the Houston Astros, and I just think that they're a good team. And the same thing happens this year. I'm going into it nervous, like not as excited as the Rays series. I thought that we were going to win the Rays series without a doubt in my mind. And now I'm kind of like, I can see Houston winning in 6. I can also see us winning in 6. I could see it happening. I think it's, again, along the same lines. I think we have to not beat ourselves. Good base running, good fielding, which was shown during the ALDS. Our hitting is always going to be there. I truly believe in that. And I think if our bullpen can just be similar to what they were against the Rays, I do feel confident that our bullpen can hold it down. And as long as Sale and Erod don't have the starts that they did, we can. I just want some starters to make it out of the 4th. Like, that's truly all I want. Is I just don't want bullpen games from this 3rd inning on. It will kill us in a 7-game series. We'll just be too tired. But my prediction is I have the Astros winning in 6. As a baseball fan, but the Red Sox fan has me winning it and has the Sox winning in 6.
Joey, your thoughts?
I'm confident just because they didn't get lucky wins. They caught breaks versus the Rays, especially in that game 3 game. They caught breaks, but that's how baseball is, and other teams catch breaks and vice versa. When it comes to Sale going tomorrow, I was obviously shocked by that. I thought the mindset is Evaldi has just been dominant. You want to have him have as many opportunities to pitch, which would mean pitching him in game 1 would give him more rest towards the later end and whatnot. But if they're putting Sale game 1, I feel that means top to bottom, everyone is confident with Sale going game 1. I think Sale's confident, Cora's confident. They had him. I was at the game on Monday night in bottom of the 8th when Verdugo got the second on the error throw by Franco. They had Sale warming up to pitch the 9th. And now that was only going to be an inning if they had taken the lead. But he was ready to go then. I think he's going to be ready to go now. He has that mentality. If he gets shelled again tomorrow, there's not going to be a single person that is going to be more upset than Chris Sale. And that there's just no doubt in my mind. He's a gamer, so I really don't think he'll let that happen. He's had a week to look at the film from that Tampa series, look at the film he's for this last year and see what am I doing wrong and be good to go. I think obviously it's a 7-game series and you have only 3 home games. You're going to have to win in Houston. They've proven they can win in Houston. You're going to have to play perfect baseball, which is really what they did versus the Rays when it comes to the base running, when it comes to the defense. Yeah, you had Schwarber go for the little old-fashioned 150-foot underhand toss in the air for the out at first base, and that didn't work out. And you had Renfroe just completely missing his cutoff man in the 8th on Saturday, but they got bailed out on both of those, and those didn't come back to bite them, which a month ago, that's what always came back to bite this team in the butt. So as long as they can limit those, and like Matt said, get their pitchers into the middle of the games, because you're not going to survive 7-inning games, especially if you don't have a guy like Richards. I never want to see Martin Perez go in any of these games unless they're up by double-digit runs. So it really is going to come down to Houck, and even Houck gave up a couple runs the other day on Monday. And that was the one time I can remember playoff bullpen decision. I didn't agree with Cora bringing him in the middle of an inning. I think Houck's a guy you have to bring in to start an inning and give him a clean inning to go off of. But besides that, I trust every string Alex Cora is going to pull every lineup. Keep Schwarber at the top of the lineup. He just mashes, and I think he has a vibe for that. Then they have gamers, and they're going to score runs. It's going to be, can the starters last long enough to keep the bullpen healthy, and can they just limit the mistakes and limit the runs they're going to be giving up?
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, McCullers is out. He's out for the series. Is what I thought I heard this morning. I just checked, and it looks like he is. Second of all,
Real
I
quick,
look at it.
Kevin, real quick. That's technically not official yet. They'll announce the roster in the morning, but it is probably most likely that'll be the case because otherwise they probably may not have even announced a starter yet.
It's like it's a forearm issue or something like that, I believe. But see, I look at this upcoming series as a battle of the bands. Okay, in 2018 we had the better drummer. 2021, who knows? It's supposed to be funny, guys. I haven't slept in 3 days. Humor me. But anyway, let's assume that McCullers is out. And so that gives them the equivalent of either Erod or Sale, because I don't believe both of them will pitch well. I think one of them might, but I don't think both of them will. And, as far as Sale, that's physical. But let me ask you this. Going into this series, if you had to pick what's more important, their pitching or their hitting, either team, because they're both known for their offense, and given McCullers taken away from that rotation, I just knocked my brother down. Do you think that the Red Sox actually have an advantage now in starting pitching, which many thought they did going into this series? Whoever wants to jump.
Astros starting pitching is much better than I think a lot of us realized. I went through the whole thing. They had 6 starters this season who started 20 games. And I think the worst ERA out of that group was like 4.22, which is like really good. 6 guys, all over that. So, Framber Valdez and Luis Garcia are going to be games 1 and 2. McCullers, if he doesn't pitch, that's a pretty tough blow for them. Zach Greinke, probably out of the bullpen. He was injured for the last couple of weeks of the season. Dusty Baker was asked about that today, and he sounded like they're probably going to try to look for him in sort of a Houck type of role, or just kind of limit him to certain pockets. But even still, what's the other guy? Urquidy? Yeah, he would be the game 3. And you know what? In the playoffs, that's all you need. 3 really good starters. That's going to be tough to match up with, especially like depending on which version of Chris Sale and Erod show up. Nathan Eovaldi is going to be the best pitcher out of he'll be the best starter in this series, but I'm not so sure that the Red Sox have the second or third best. That's going to be a big question mark.
Joey, Matt?
To me, it's going to come down to the Red Sox pitching, because, like we said, their bats they're going to wake up. Someone's going to step up. If Devers has a down series, Renfroe's going to step up. I think they're always going to produce runs as long as they have their good base running. Like that game 1 versus Tampa when they beat them in hits and they had 9 hits, but they were all singles. I don't think we're going to see another game like that. They're going to score their runs. I think it's going to come back down to limiting this Houston offense, because they're terrifying and they just have some big bats, and they have guys that have postseason experience and guys that hate the Red Sox and want to win, like Altuve, like Bregman, like Correa. Then you have professional hitters like Brantley, and you have young guys like Tucker, and just you have what's his face, the big lefty. I want to say Franmil Reyes, but he plays for the Indians.
Alvarez.
That guy.
Alvarez. Yeah, Alvarez. You have Tim. Like, they have a loaded offense, and the last thing I want to see is Sale or Erod give you one of these great starts for 5 innings, and it's the postseason, so they give up a run, and you're only up 3-1. They give them the hook, and the bullpen have to do it every single night. That's going to put a lot on them. They've been good. Houck's been great. Whitlock. They've used Brazier and they've Robles, and they're getting there. But it's going to be like Tampa. It's going to be a team you have to get all 27 outs. It's not going to go down to the final 2 innings and they're going to be down 4 and be like, we'll get them tomorrow. They're going to keep going. You're going to have to steal one of these games in the first 2 in Houston. My money would be on the Eovaldi game, because he is, like Max said, the best overall starter in this, and he's just been unbelievable. But also now he's going to be starting outside of Fenway. In Houston, Minute Maid Park, when they close that roof and everything in the postseason, it is a madhouse. And you got the short porch in left field, and different things seem to happen there, wink, wink, when they're playing and they're not swinging at curveballs in the dirt and they're laying off high fastballs. But they're going to have to to have a hell of a pitching outings the next 2 games in Houston to at least get one of these wins coming back to Fenway Tide.
Matt, your thoughts?
I think it comes down to the starters. I do trust their bullpen. I like what I've seen out of Davis and roller coaster Robles, but Houck's been perfect. Besides that homer the other night, it's just been awesome. But the starters, like we said, I trust Eovaldi. He's big game Nate, and he seems like he might be the only one that's more fired up than Chris Sale, possibly, which I don't think is even possible. But I do trust Chris Sale. He is a gamer, and he is our ace still. I truly think he has the best stuff. He has looked off the past 3-4 starts, yeah. But so did Eovaldi going into that Yankee series, and then he lit up that lineup, which is just as good as the Astros lineup, in my opinion. The Yankees lineup is solid. But our pitching is definitely the big piece. If we can just make it 4 to 5 innings, that way our bullpen only has to go 4 to 5 innings compared to 6, which was like every night against Tampa. It's just unrealistic to think that they can sustain that for 6-7 games. They wouldn't be able to. Hopefully our offense can click. I agree with Joey. Somebody will catch fire if somebody goes down or is cold. I think that Bobby, he kind of had a few lineouts, had put in some good at bats in the Rays series, but didn't really do much. He also didn't get much playing time. I think the Astros have a few starters that are lefties. I think Urquidy is a lefty, if I'm correct. And Valdez, I'm not sure. But yeah. So those are at bats that he'll likely get. And I think with the short portion left, he has a chance to show off his power and solidify himself as the first baseman of the future of the Red Sox. I still stick to that, I think. But
your future first baseman is playing third currently right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with
opinion.
him. I'd be fine with him there too. I just think that he should be a part of our lineup. But
And I agree. I think they have a lot of players that are alike. So they're going to have to sort through that in the offseason. But this has definitely been, and Sam Kennedy was on the radio this morning, and he was saying that, there's more excitement surrounding this team. Even he feels like even more than when the height of the rivalry in the early 2000s were taking place. And I have to agree with him. The last 2 championships, 13 was beloved, but, it was just kind of they were guys. I think the Red Sox defined themselves in that last series against the Rays. But lastly, everybody saw the way that Alex Cora reacted after they won that series. He was obviously very emotional. He's spoken about it a couple times. And the Astro players who have been interviewed about Alex seem to kind of back the bus over him. Anybody who wants to go first, how personal do you think this is? And how much do you think the team would love to see Cora knock off the guys that, sent them down the river? Anybody who wants it.
Yeah, so I actually had a chance to talk to Alex about this after the game 4 the other day, and he's, it's funny, like he's been very frank and very, accountable about, what he did. Like he's not shied away from it. He's pushed back on any notion that this is a redemption in any way. But he did say it was very, very like it felt good for him to see his family who kind of imagine getting dragged through the mud like that. Like you're, seeing, somebody you love, justifiably, vilified for something, bad he did, for him to have a chance to see his, his family celebrating on the field afterwards was really awesome. And the players, look, they love Alex Cora. They respect him. He's very, you can tell like they really love playing for him. So yeah. And also I'm sure they probably also would love to beat the Astros for the personal reasons and also just because it's the Astros. So I know for sure that this would mean a lot for them to get this series, both for themselves and for Alex.
Matt, Joey?
Yeah, I was a Yankees fan, I don't know who I'd be rooting for right now. This is got to be like the biggest toss-up of all time for them. Do you root for your longtime rival, or you go for the team that cheated you out of possibly a couple World Series? But yeah, I don't know. I don't play too much into the storylines of baseball. I don't think that they exist as much as like people try to make them out to be. I think, of course, Cora wants to win. You get to the World Series, and they'll be a little bit behind it. But I think the team more wants to do it for him, just to kind of prove that, because we lost him for a year for his allegations with the Astros. People forget a lot of times that he wasn't suspended for the Red Sox cheating scandal. He was suspended only for the Astros, so it affected us as a team for really no reason. But so I think that the Sox really want to go out there and get their revenge on the team that cost us our manager and cost us what was a horrible 2020 with Renicky. But
for the handful that watched.
Yeah.
Real quick, just to push back on that, Alex Cora was very much responsible for what he did. It's not like the Astros cost the Red Sox their manager. Alex Cora cost the Red Sox their manager. That was, that's he's very guilty, and he's very upfront about that. So, just set the record.
Oh yeah, I agree that he's guilty, but like it's just like as a team, if who knows what the suspension would have been if the Sox also weren't built into it. But yeah, I think the Sox want to beat that team because we lost them in 2017. So who knows if we had played them in that series, or if they were cheating, how that would have affected us that year, and maybe we could have gone back to back. That's all what ifs and hypotheticals, which I don't like, because one pitch is different in baseball and changes the entire course of the season. But obviously, I think the Sox, it will mean a little bit more, but I don't think it will be anything like what fans try to make it out to be.
Joey, your thoughts?
I think it's going to be, I think the Astros are more locked into getting a revenge versus the Red Sox, or revenge on Alex Cora. I think Cora had his suspension last year. He took his time. I think he was emotional after winning the other night because he didn't know if he'd be back in this spot. And then he comes back, and they didn't have expectations for this year. And the main reason I love him is because everyone in that clubhouse loves him, and he leads this team, and he's a player's guy, and he pulls the right strings, and he's got the respect. He gets the most out of his guys, and he's done that. And I feel like one of the biggest things going for this team is they're playing with house money. If they lose, and as long as they don't get embarrassed or they don't lose on their own and cost themselves multiple wins, then they lose. They played above their value this year. They proved people that they're the best team in the AL East. They showed out, they balled out, and they lose to a stacked team that, is this the fourth or fifth year the Astros have made it to the championship series? It has to be.
Fifth year in a row.
Fifth year in a row. They're
Yeah.
here every year. And so they've lost it. They lost here last year. They lost to us in 18 here. Like, they've lost here. The Red Sox, knock on wood, have won and moved on every time they've made it here since 2004. Or 2008. So, yeah, I completely glossed over that. Anyways, we just beat that team. We just beat that team. So,
and Moby's somewhere with his dog. But
I think the Astros have more of this just hatred in them to win. The players on that team, I think none of them got punished for what happened, but I still think they take it personally. I think they hear the haters the most. I think Cora is obviously he knows what he did. He accepted it. He accepted the punishments, and he's just happy to have a job back and is proving I can win without that. But I think these Astros players are going to have not more emotion and care for it, but I think when it comes to that rivalry of the Cora versus them, or making it to it, if they lose, it's more of an embarrassment on them. They've now 5 years in a row championship series, and they've made it to 2 World Series, or 3. How many have they made it to?
2.
They're here all the time, right? 2. Oh, it is 2. Okay. So, but they're here all the time. I think it's more embarrassment to them. The Red Sox are playing with house money. They can go out there as long as they don't beat themselves or embarrass themselves in a sweep. I still going to end in a winning season for the Red Sox in a whole, looking at it that way.
Well, let's go right ahead, Mac.
One more quick thing. Joey just mentioned something. I caught my ear. Alex Cora and the Astros, it's a funny dynamic. Like the Astros players have been asked about Alex Cora this week, like in the press conferences today and yesterday, and they love him. They feel the same way about him as the Red Sox do. So for them, it's like not so much about trying to get revenge on anybody in the baseball community. It's more just like, I think whether they admit it or not, they're fueled by the hate that they've been getting from the baseball world. Like, at this point, only I think 4 or maybe 5 guys from the 17 team are left. So a lot of these guys are just like, what do you guys hate me so much for? Like I wasn't there for that. And Dusty Baker, their manager, now has done a fantastic job of basically turning this team into the world's least likable kind of Cinderella. It's as if Cinderella has winning a personality as one of her ugly stepsisters, So that's kind of like they're like, I don't know, like what's the opposite of a team of destiny? Like, like, I don't know, it's like rooting for the Empire in Star Wars, I guess, that kind of thing. Like,
right.
they have that sort of vibe going on where they have all the hallmarks of this great underdog team, except they're, for a variety of reasons.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, I'll tell you this, Matt. I think you underrate especially this time of year. If this was a series in June, it's a series in June. These guys have that mentality. But when you've spent from February to the second week of October together, you've had this guy come back. Especially at the deadline, you didn't even think you could win. I think that personal feeling gets exposed this time of year. But to wrap it up, and I hope you guys will stay, I'd like to pay a little tribute. But to wrap it up, we already got Matt's prediction. We'll go to you, Matt, and I'll finish it up. But starting with you, Joey, and going around the horn and back to Matt and me, number of games and who wins?
I got Sox in 7.
Matt?
I think Astros in 6 is my official pick, but I'm not confident about that. I'm confident that it'll go 6 games or more. But, yeah, beyond that, we'll see.
And, Matt, I think we know yours. You've got the Astros in 6.
The Astros in 6, realistically speaking. But I think the Sox can win it.
So do you want – I've been practicing my Glenn Ordway. Do you want it?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give it to you anyways. If they lose the first 2 in Houston, it's going to be a short series. But I think one of these 2 guys are going to come up big in Houston. I think it's going to be a longer series, like all of us do. And I'll tell you what, this team won me over last series. I can see them being one of those teams that never should win, but they find a way. And so I'll take the Red Sox in 7. How's that? And lastly, as some of you may know, some of you may not know, I lost my brother earlier this week. He was kind of a second dad to me. He's 19 years older than me. This is a picture of him in Vietnam, where you're not going to be able to see it that well, but it'll be posted on the internet, where he took down a tiger behind enemy lines on a night patrol. He was an Army Ranger, a LRP, which you can look that up. That's basically Special Forces. He was everything to me and my family, from being a brother, from being a pain in the ass, from kicking our ass, to being our brother and eventually being one of our best friends. So, and ironically, 18 years ago, almost to a week, my mom passed, and it was just before the 2003 ALCS against the Yankees, and I convinced myself that she had gone to be with my dad so she'd see them win. And then that Boone asshole ended all that. But Larry was a funny guy. He was a unique guy. He lived life well. He was at peace when he passed. And funny thing about Larry is you weren't his friend for long. If he loved you, if he was close to you, you became his family. So I just wanted to pay respect to him and to all of those who have served and all those who have lost others during this difficult time. And he would have punched me in the face if I didn't turn around and do this tonight. So God bless you, brother. Godspeed. And you better have more influence than Mom had. That's all I can say. So boys, thank you for taking the time tonight. I appreciate it, and we will touch base during the series. I hope it's a long one. I hope it's a fun one like last one was. And we'll talk again soon. I'm Kevin with BSD. He's Joey and Matt with Aging Ash and Sticky Balls. And he is Max Cerullo, whose work can be found at the Eagle Tribune. Until we meet again, folks, thanks very much. Enjoy watching your Sox in the postseason. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.